This is Sergio with Cage Side Press. I'm really excited today. I am joined by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who is joining me to talk about his upcoming fight with Gilbert Burns, among several other things. So, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Feeling good. Getting ready for July 10th, baby. Ready to rock and roll, man.
Last time we spoke was actually 2 days before your birthday. So, how have you been since then?
Man, you know what? I'm 38 years old now, but I feel like I'm 25. Of course, the healing process is a little slower, but other than that, I'm feeling good, man. Staying busy, man. Teaching classes, training on the regular, getting ready for this fight coming up. Just staying busy all around, just staying busy. I love it.
So, obviously, you've got that big fight coming up. How are you feeling overall? I know you had some injuries from the Jeff Neal fight. How are those? Are those all recovered? And how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good right now. It was the hand, my right hand, that was kind of giving me problems. I had broken it during the Vicente Luque fight almost 2 years ago. Um, well, a year and a half. But it was giving me some problems after the Jeff Neal fight. I could have had trouble closing my hand. Of course, actually, I had to get the scar healed up, but other than that, everything's good to go. I'm glad that the UFC has given me somebody who's ranked higher than me. The last few, several fights have been guys significantly ranked behind me. So they're putting me in the right direction. So and that's towards the title.
What's your thoughts overall on Gilbert Burns as an opponent? I know you said anyone in front of you, but I'm sure once you got Gilbert Burns, you started doing some dissecting on his fights and stuff. How do you view him as an opponent?
He's a very tough opponent. He's one of those type of guys, like preparing for Rory McDonald, because these guys can take the fight anywhere they want. They're very well-rounded. His jiu-jitsu is one of the top jiu-jitsu practitioners and competitors in the world at this point. So I know at some point in time that he's going to want to try and take me to the ground. So constantly working on my wrestling defense, be able to get back up to my feet. But wherever the fight goes, I want to be ready for it. Watching his last fight against, Kamaru Usman, who's not known for his striking, ended up knocking him out, TKO'ing him with a jab. So I know Gilbert Burns is an intelligent guy. He's smart. So I know he's working on his striking, getting better with his defense. So I'm going to be facing, and this is what I want, the best Gilbert Burns we have yet seen. And that's the guy that I'm preparing for.
I'm sure you don't want to give up too much, but I know Ryan Hall and Chase Hooper, wizards on the ground. They've historically been going down there to Upstate Karate. Are they back? Have you had them around to help you prep for this fight?
100%. Chase Hooper's got a fight coming up. He came down to help him get ready and with his striking, and of course, vice versa. Same thing with especially Ryan Hall. I've been training with this guy and working with him for many, many years now, and he's helped me tremendously, along with my other jiu-jitsu coaches. So, having Ryan Hall here, and he's actually coming back in about a week. It's going to be on point because we're fighting on the same card, actually, me and Ryan. He's on the same card, which is going to be pretty cool, having a friend out there at the same time, on the same card. So these guys are helping me leaps and bounds for sure.
In a way, does it feel like both of you have to get a win to truly feel like a win on the evening? Like if you have a friend or family member fighting on the same card, I feel like even if you win and he loses, it doesn't really feel like a full-on win. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because me and Chris Weidmans, who's my brother-in-law pretty much, I mean, we fought on the same card. We fought on, UFC 205. And it definitely feels that way. He fought before me, ended up getting that big cut, knee to the head, but from Yoel Romero. But at the same time, it's just cool to be able to have that experience with somebody that at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it could go bad, but at the same time, it's all about the experience. I didn't let that get me down when that happened with Chris. I had to stay focused on what I needed to do. But at the same time, it's, it can be pretty rough, especially for the family of ours that are watching, the friends that are ours that are watching, because they're twice as nervous because they know both two guys on the same card. But it's fun, man. It's about the experience, and that's what I love about it.
I know with the state of the welterweight division right now, there's so many guys up there that have, are in position for a title shot, but you're the only one that really hasn't fought the champ. Do you feel like a win here like solidifies you as the number one contender?
I think so. I mean, when you go out there and beat the guy that just beat or just lost to him, just fought for the title. I think so, man. I mean, you beating the number 2 guy in the division. I think after this, you know, with a good win over Gilbert Burns, they got to give me that title shot. I know there's some guys that are probably lined up before me, but I'm okay of waiting until I get that shot. So, you know, I think I deserve it. I've been, you know, I beat Vicente Luque, who's on a roll right now, and they're talking about him fighting Kamaru Usman, which is kind of doesn't make sense to me when, you know, I am where I'm at, and I'm the only guy in the top right now that hasn't faced Usman. I think I'm a terrible matchup for him. So I think it's going to work out great in my favor for sure. So they got to give me that fight.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was surprised that you weren't. I know you were campaigning for it for a little bit there, and ultimately they went with you versus Gilbert. But I think you're the only guy there that he hasn't fought, and I think that fight makes a ton of sense. I know you touched on Chris a little bit earlier. What's the status of his injury? You know, obviously you're close with him, so you know a lot more than we do. But what was it like seeing that happen as a friend and as a brother-in-law?
It was terrible. I was sitting there cage side. I was in his corner for that fight, and it happened so fast. Like I was, you know, sitting next to Ray Longo, and making sure the buckets and everything. I almost missed it, and I kind of wish I did miss it. I didn't want to see that, you know. I looked down and make sure everything was situated for after the first round, and when I looked up, he just hit, you know, Uriah Hall with his hardest leg kick. It kind of makes sense because when I go back and look, you know, he was hitting the pads in the back very hard. Like Ray Longo couldn't even hold the pads. He was hitting the pads so hard it was making my arms go numb. Chris was. And the fight before that, our buddy of ours, you know, Anthony Smith beat his guy with a low calf kick. So I can kind of see how that was in Chris's head. You know, I'm kicking hard. My buddy just won his match with a low calf kick. I'm going to go out there and do the same. But, you know, he hit that guy so hard. And I don't care how hard your shins are. When you're hitting somebody like that and it gets checked, you know, especially in just that right area, that knee knuckle, right below the knee, you're checking. That's like the thickest part of your shin. It's gonna break. But that just didn't make sense to me. Like, why did this have to happen to Chris? Right? Like, that's happened 3 times in the UFC, and he's been a part of 2 of them. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I just stopped thinking about it. But you know, I rode in the ambulance with him. I was at the hospital with him. He was in a lot of pain, man. I can just every bump that he hit, it was just pain. It was a compound fracture, so the bone went through the skin.
Yeah.
So, you know, and those UFC canvas is not the most sanitary, you know, spots on the planet. So it's very dirty. So you got to make sure that there was no infection. And, you know, but surgery went well. He's in good spirits. He's up walking on it. I don't know if you saw his Instagram lately, which is crazy, right? I mean, after, you know, a month, it happened a month ago and the guy's already walking on it. This guy's going to be back in no time. And the thing is that Chris, he's a fighter such that he doesn't have to ever throw a kick again and still win fights. Like, that's not what makes him him. Now, for me, on the other hand, if that happened to me, different story. But for Chris, you know, he can still compete at a high level and still win fights.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next. Like, obviously, someone who relies heavily on those kicks. How do you overcome that mentally? I mean, obviously, you saw it happen firsthand. Someone very close to you. Obviously, I'm sure the day after you go to the gym and you're like hesitant. How do you switch that off?
Well, the thing is, you know, I'm not the type of guy to give 100%. Especially, I've never thrown a kick as hard as I could at somebody's leg. It's always been just right. For instance, when I fought Rory McDonald, I was hitting him with lead leg, low calf kicks, lead leg, front leg, with not a whole lot of power on it. And after the fight, you know, he could barely stand up. You can still do a lot of damage without throwing a very hard kick. I don't think I've ever thrown a kick as hard as I could when you know, out of my knockouts, all the knockouts that I've had, I never hit anybody as hard as I could. It's always been just right. So I'm not that type of guy to give, you know, to really give every shot 100%, right? As max power. I pick and choose those moments. And I think that's kind of helped me with my longevity in the UFC as well, not taking so much damage as well. So, you know, immediately that didn't affect me mentally. It affected me, you know, for my love for Chris. I just hated to see him in that pain. And after already being out of a fight for so long, and now being out a year again, I feel, you know, I feel bad for him, you know, that this has happened to him, but it didn't affect me in the gym at all, you know. So I know that I do the right amount of, I condition my shins. I prepared myself for the worst to begin with. And so it really didn't affect me to be able to do what I needed to do in the gym or even in the octagon.
Ironically, I think you actually posted a shin conditioning video 2 or 3 days before it happened.
I did, man. I did.
Yeah.
It was crazy how that happened. I did a shin conditioning video. And I think it was a buddy of mine that we collabed with. We destroyed his shins. A guy named Houston Jones. Go look at his stuff. The guy's a nut, man. He's awesome. So I conditioned his shins. By the end of that shin, you know, his YouTube channel is about him going through just a tremendous amount of pain. And I took him through one of my shin conditioning processes. His shins were bleeding by the end of the day. So the guy's a nut. He's funny, man. But yeah, he just posted that up like a week before. And of course, that had to happen. Why?
Yeah, I thought it was very ironic. Like literally just days before that video is the one that happened to go out. Back to your fight. I mean, the past few fights you've had 3-round fights, 5-round fights. Obviously, your last one was a main event. Now it's 3 rounds. How do you adjust to the change in I guess the length of fights?
Well, to be honest, I prepare every fight as if it's a championship fight, 5 rounds. If I have a 3-round fight, then any kind of bag work I'm doing, mitt work, sparring drills, I'm doing 5-minute rounds. It makes those 3 5-minute rounds a little bit easier. But the thing is, those 3 5-minute rounds, those three round fights are actually harder because the pace is a lot greater because you know you're not going those extra 2 rounds. A lot of times when you're preparing for a 5-minute round fight, you and your opponent subconsciously, you know, kind of hold back a little bit with the you know, the aggressiveness or giving it 100% because knowing that you're having to go 5 rounds. So and in those 3-minute round fights, they're harder because you know there are only 3 rounds and you got to give it all you got in those 3 rounds. You know what I'm saying? So to be honest with you, sometimes those 3-round fights are a little bit harder. So I prepare myself and I push myself hard 5-minute rounds. So that way makes those 3-minute round fights, those 3-round fights a little bit easier.
All right, I like it. I guess one last message: is there any? What can people expect from you? I guess in your fight against Gilbert.
Well, I say this every time, man. You're looking to see, you know, the best Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and that's how I prepare for every fight, as if I'm fighting for the title. You know, I don't go out there predicting in a knockout. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I always visualize my hand being raised. And that helps me mentally when I'm stepping out that octagon, that I'm prepared for a 5-minute round or 3 5-minute round war. And that's what I'm prepared for. Sometimes you get guys that go out there and like, oh, I'm going to knock this guy out in the first round. And when it doesn't happen, they break or they get tired. They tire themselves out trying. I go out there and, like I said, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm prepared for that 5-minute round war. And I visualize my hand being raised. And that's how I go into fights.
I love it. I have one last question for you. I know early on in your career, your dad, Ray, would feed you to these men when you were like 14, 15 years old. Now that you're 38 years old, how has that changed? Is he feeding you to young guys, hungry guys? Is he hanging you upside down like Josh Fabia? What sorts of alterations has he done in your training over the years?
Well, you know, in the beginning, you know, the reason he did that because I was a way for him to show me that I was better than what I thought I was. I'm sitting here getting beat up by this girl, my older sister, every day. You know, she competed before me, and so I thought I was terrible. You know, I thought I was just a bad kickboxer, bad fighter, but didn't realize that I'm training with champions. You know, and that was kind of a way for him to show me that I was better than what I thought I was. I was 15 years old fighting a guy who's 26 and he was 20-0, and I beat the brakes off the guy. But he's still pushing me, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, showing me how to train smarter now that I am 38, that I am getting older. I'm still pushing myself every day. We got hungry guys, big guys that I train with, high level wrestlers who throw me around like a little rag doll, putting me in uncomfortable situations on the regular basis. So that way I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's helped me out tremendously. So yeah, it's crazy to see a dad do that to their kid, but sometimes your youngins need to know that. They need to know that they can push through adversity. And I wouldn't be the man I am today if it wasn't for my dad putting me through that.